Ranging from history, landscape to conservation and heritage management. Please welcome Professor Rajat Ray. Now we have in our midst Ms. Sushmita Sengupta. She is a program manager CAC, a geologist by training. She has over 10 years of experience in research on sustainable water and sanitation management in India and South Asia. Her current responsibilities include research, knowledge dissemination, and policy advocacy in the field of water and waste management. Please welcome Ms. Sushmita Sengupta. Sir, please begin.
Should I? It's last to say it. Okay, firstly, thank you very much for this unique event and for inviting me and here. It's actually a perfect spring morning to talk about what we're going to talk about the issue of the garden and the city. I just want to talk a little bit about the city of Delhi itself and how the topography and the landscape of Delhi precedes the city, which we often forget because we often think of the city as an isolation to its natural topography. Actually, cities are, especially old cities, and Delhi has a long history of excavations of how old it is. Some excavations even go to 400 AD. So it's a place for settlement. It's been a place for settlement, human settlement, for a very, very long time. Of course, Qutub Minar itself is in the 11th century, and you see much stronger traces of the city after that. And before that, you see through excavations. But the question is, why was the city based where it was based? What is the reason why cities come to be, or the settlements come to be, which grow into contemporary modern cities? And a lot of these, one of the key reasons is the kind of ecological landscape they are based in. And if you look at, if you come down and have a bird's eye view of the rivers of the city of Delhi, there are two key defining features of it. One is the river, the Yamuna, which flows from Yamunotri down to Allahabad, and it's about 1,300 kilometers long. And it passes about 50 kilometers through city, through Delhi, starting from a place called Palla in Haryana, at the border of Haryana, and then exits near Okhla. After Okhla, it exits Delhi and goes on to Mathura and Agra. The other feature is the Delhi Ridge forest, Delhi Ridge. The Delhi Ridge is part of the Aravallis, which is said to be one of the oldest mountain chains in the world. It's dated by some to be 1.5 billion years old. It's a prehistoric, that's why it's so low. It's not the Himalayas, which is like a rising landscape. This is like a steady and maybe collapsing landscape. But this spur enters Delhi from its southwest and breaks into two spurs. And you can see the Aravallis as you go into Gurgaon and you go further down in Rajasthan. It's that extension which comes to Delhi and then breaks into two spurs. One goes towards Tughlakabad and the other fork ends near where Delhi University is right now at the northern ridge and peters off at the Yamuna. Now between this fork and the river is a cusp, is a natural cusp. This cusp is a cusp for water drainage, for various kinds of soil structures, from very rocky soil structures on the ridge, the quartzite type of soil, of rock, and then to highly porous alluvial soil on the Yamuna, which is the floodplain of the river Yamuna. And between that, all these cities have been formed on that. Some on the river itself. For example, if you see the three big forts on the river, just off the river, but once on the river, was the Old Fort, and then the Firozshah Kotla, and then the Red Fort. And if one goes along the wall of the Daryaganj, there's a big wall there. You can still see old watermarks there because the river once was flowing next to it. So the settlements were either on this or on water systems which were formed by this cusp. And there's several water systems which are visible even today. All the sewage drains which we now try and cover and decide they are really bad for the city are actually the water channels. And there were drainage areas for large catchment areas like the Najafgarh Jheel, which is now dry. These were monsoon drainages for these big catchment areas in the cusp and then drain into the river Yamuna. Also, if one ventures to look at the groundwater maps of Delhi, the groundwater depths are very much related to the soil structure and the water drainage. There are also drainage maps of the city, which shows you how the water drains from the high, because the ridge at its highest point is about 100 meters over the river. So there is very much a constant interaction between the high point and the river, which is often forgotten. We don't think of this as a continuous ecosystem. We think of the river as separate because all the conversations about the river is about cleaning it up, or at best, which he will tell you more about, I'm sure, but the floodplain. But about the network of water flows and groundwater into the surface and groundwater interaction, which is the basis of Delhi's water, has been the basis of Delhi's water. Now you also get water from the Ganga. So this is the ecology in which the city was always there, and it's only post-independence that parts of the ridge were blasted off for new settlements like Rajendra Nagar and the Jawaharlal Nehru University, which were all made from blasting off parts of the ridge. So the ridge now currently remains in 4 separate sections, the largest being Jasola Wildlife Sanctuary, then Sanjeevan and 2 more, Northern Ridge and Central Ridge, constituting about 800 hectares. The river flows itself into, I don't know how long I can speak, another few minutes. The river flows itself on the floodplain. The floodplain itself is 9,300 hectares on either side. And these are very large ecological areas. And we have, and I'm sure you'll hear more about both the geology and the design of the city, but we have consistently ignored in urban planning the idea that city is an ecological space. So you have water flooding because you're building across water flows and you cannot take care of them. So if the water is flowing like that, it's normal common sense. And you build across it, then obviously you'll have water flooding. How much drainage can you have? And if severe monsoon, you have a lot more water flooding. A lot of what you see happening in the city is because of the topography of the city. But topography is not being part of contemporary urban planning. And if I'm wrong, I might stand corrected in a few minutes from now. But it's not been, so you look at urban plans there as if the topography does not exist. That Delhi is in isolation. It could be in Mars, it doesn't really matter where it is. But that Delhi has very particular, to a particular site specificity is not part of how we design cities today. So, all the ailments which go with it, then a lot of institutional problems alongside with it. The last thing I want to say before I pass on to Vimlendu is that we are used, because of channels like National Geographic, we grew up thinking of forests as a certain kind of landscape. There's huge, big trees and wild animals in it. And anything which does not conform to that landscape is not a forest. And it's actually completely untrue because ecosystems have their own balances. The Delhi Ridge Forest, the last plantation record is from Firoz Shah Tughlaq's time, is an arid forest. It's a very bare forest. It's meant to be a bare forest because it's meant to work on low water requirements. And it's called an arid scrub forest. It's one of the biotopes. It's still a forest. The floodplain itself is a very complex and interrelated ecology. So when in court people claim that there was no trees in there, we cut no trees, essentially they don't know what a floodplain is. A floodplain is not meant to have large trees, but it's meant to work in a different way. So ecologies are complex interactions in their in the microcosms and also in their larger topographies. And I'll just end by saying that these two features are there today only because of citizens' action. I remember I was part of it in 1994, a large campaign to save the Delhi Ridge Forest, and we managed to get it convert it from revenue land to forest land. So it is now 8,000 hectares of forest land. And because of the river campaign, there are orders, but not a law, but the orders that the floodplain will not be built upon. Court orders and LG's orders, that's 9,300 hectares of land. However, it's a constant fight. And since I see many young people in the audience, I would encourage that if you want to save the city, you have to do something about it. Because in the planning context, the city has nothing to do with what you might call nature. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, I was actually, I was at a university in Sonipat, and I was interacting with several students. And we've all have studied in our history and geography textbooks that, every civilization or every industrialization is next to a river. So there were almost 40, 50 people in the gathering. And it's an international university, so there were people from, of course, not from all other nations, but at least from other parts of the country. I asked them to group themselves based on the river basin that they belong to, right? As in there's almost 16 river basins that we have in our country. There was a lot of commotion in the room. Some people were able to, form a Ganga group. There were some people from Bombay who suddenly realized that yes, there was something called Meethi there. So two people made a Meethi group, Meethi River group. This young man, otherwise looked very quiet, walked up to me, and he comes and says that, "Sir, I don't know which river basin do I belong to. I think I belong to the tap water basin." And interestingly, what happened is that almost 60% of the class, or 60% of the gathering, actually went and joined that young man. Because they did not know, most of the people didn't even know the river that they belonged to. I'm talking about Sonipat. They didn't even know that there was a river called Yamuna that was next door. I actually had to cross a drain, a fancy looking, very colorful, black and charming drain to reach their university. They didn't know about that drain. They didn't know that 1.5 kilometers away was a river, which is why their city or their space was. Now, of course, what we've talked about, what Ravi was talking about, ridge and the river, and what this entire space is about, our ecological space and our ecological landscape. But one of the reasons why we are in this much crisis is because of the tap water world that we all live in. It's good that we are having this session outside. If we were having this session inside, and if randomly I asked you where are we getting air from, I'm sure you would have said aircon. And unfortunately, we as young people, we as old people, we've suddenly not looking at ecology, not connecting the dots, and that's one of the reasons why we are in the mess that we are in. Now let's look at who is creating the mess, as in I will talk about the mess that you and I create. But the biggest violator today of our environment, and mostly Yamuna that we're talking about, there are three. I'll first go with in order, not in that sense, but whatever, something that you'd never think that could be violating our space or violating our resource. First is faith. Now, of course, I should have actually started my session by saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai. So I'm saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai once right now, so that no one throws any stone at me right now, because that's in fashion these days, pelting stones. In the name of religion, when we worship Yamuna is the daughter of Surya, sister of Yamaraj. As in, of course, we talk about Ganga and Yamuna as the most prominent rivers that we have in our country. But if you look at the most of battering, beating, polluting of Yamuna, a lot is also attributed to our dharma. go after any Durga Puja or Kali Puja to the river, because our gods and goddesses no more, and I'm of course talking about Hindu religion right now, and we could talk about, unfortunately, other religions don't need to go and take a holy dip in the Yamuna. I'm sure other religion, other faith groups are also could be as, doing damage to the ecology. But look at our gods. They were earlier made out of clay. Mitti se bante the hamare Ishwar. And now they're all made out of, Ravi's done so much research on, all the idols have become toxic gods. Because you want them to look fancier. You want a paint on them. You want some fancy plastic on them, plaster of Paris on them, lead on them, mercury on them. You make them look gorgeous. And then what do you do after that? So you remember your god or your goddess for a particular day, and then you go and dump it into the river, that river that is actually completely black and dead already. And at that point, you don't even think that you're actually dumping a goddess into a drain that is actually carrying your excreta. That is one faith, which is organized faith, and the new faith is this Babagiri that is happening in our country. Yesterday, the Prime Minister went and actually inaugurated a 112 feet statue of Shiva in Coimbatore, damaging the forest. Just last year, exactly this time, we were actually running a campaign against a big festival that was happening called World Culture Festival, where one of the most, maybe the gentleman who's part of that festival might get Nobel this year, because he almost got it last year, or he claimed he refused it, for what he did last year. And there were millions of people, or lakhs of people at least, who came on the banks and chanted. And in the process of creating a ground for cultural, visual, we actually ruined the entire floodplain. Almost, 50 to 100 acres of stage, the army was brought in, and this is when this gets validated, when your government also participates. So it was graced by the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, the Chief Minister. So how faith is also, as in the organized faith and not so unorganized, not so organized but very power broker faith, is actually ruining our river bodies in many, many ways. And that's the violator number one that we're talking about. Second one is the government. Government is the custodian of our environment, of our river, but the biggest violator is actually the government itself in two ways. One is by not doing what it's supposed to do, and which means primarily river keeping. The other day there was a report, Supreme Court and NGT said that not a single drop of Ganga and Yamuna has actually been cleaned since whatever thousands of crores have been spent on this. And they are the custodian, and therefore it's their responsibility. It's your money and my money, which has gone somewhere, and the river and our rivers are not cleaned. And the other is, which you can call it a governance issue, a failure of governance issue. But when the government, very organized in a very colluding way, violates, and that's when Commonwealth Games happened. So it was legal, it was legalized. That's where you imagine the Delhi government operates, Delhi Secretariat is on the floodplains. So, it validates the entire idea. It says, well, we'll govern, we'll actually construct, the government building will be on the floodplains. So government being the violator number two, both of its action and inaction, and then the industry that we're talking about. That how we actually are talking about a modern India, make in India, and all of it is actually coming from our water bodies. At the end of the day, either you occupy a floodplain in terms of constructing something on that, or you draw water and pump sewage into your river bodies. And if you actually go around Delhi, most of these, as in entire Sonipat, Panipat, Yamunanagar, Delhi itself, Bhavana, Narela, all of this is actually on the floodplains, which primarily means that it all draws its water from the river. Now, these are the three violators, prominent violators, but let's come to us as violators. And I think that's where the main problem lies, because there's nothing that angers us, nothing that makes us upset about these issues. We, of course, get our water from our tap, but we don't really look at that, can we actually bathe in Coca-Cola if the river runs dry completely? We are actually becoming a very stupid generation where we are not able to connect the dots in terms of really looking at if our air, if you read the statistics that says that Delhi is the most polluted city when it comes to air and is the most polluted river that we have, why doesn't it not hurt us? We don't do anything about it. It's yet another page of news, and then we turn around and we go to news number 2, news number 3. For heaven's sake, we're not talking about a race or a Rangoon movie release that we can actually miss. We're actually talking about the air that you breathe and water that you drink. And in all of this debate, actually, one thing that we need to understand is that there's a question of justice and equity. Because you and I can actually buy Aquaguard or Bisleri or many of those things and drink mineral water. Or perhaps now buy a mask and get an air purifier. But we're talking about thousands and thousands of people, almost 50% of Delhi's population that directly consumes that water, not straight from the river in that sense, but doesn't have access to water. Forget about having access to an Aquaguard or a water filter in that sense. And we are the people who actually run your city that we're talking about. So when that statistics that comes that says that every minute 2 people die in Delhi because of air pollution, it's not you and I mostly. Of course, it's a leveler. Pollution is for everyone in that sense. It doesn't discriminate. But it's the poorest who actually get affected a lot. I want to end with, we'll talk more when there's a question and answer session, but I'll tell you, when I started doing this work around 17, 18 years ago, I was a student. I don't know how old I am now. It was my love for the environment and it was my love for Yamuna. And when I look back sometimes and, now I try to live outside of Delhi, at least a week, a month, I don't want to live in Delhi. I look at why did I choose to work on an issue like this, which is so sad, so sickening. It was beauty and romance of environment, love and concern for environment that actually got, and that's what made me choose this city, Delhi, 17 years ago when I came here first time, and choose to work on Yamuna. And all that I've been talking about last 17 years in my limited capacity as an individual or as whatever work that I do is talk negative, talk bad, talk death, talk dirty. I don't want to talk dirty ideally. That's not why I chose environment. That's not why I came to Delhi. But there's nothing but talking dirty, unfortunately, which we need to change. And I think we can change it unless until we don't do something about it, and we as citizens, as violators, and our violation is ignorance, our violation is convenience, our violation is not really holding people responsible in some way or the other. And if that doesn't get fixed, nothing's going to get fixed. Keep drinking excreta.
Yeah, let the ground be prepared. No. I'm opposition.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Good morning, everybody. I'm Sushmita from Center for Science and Environment. Talking about Yamuna, actually, yeah, Yamuna is dirty. Most of us cross Yamuna when we come to our institutions or walk of place, and we see black Yamuna, brown Yamuna, all sorts of colors in Yamuna. But today, I'm not going to tell that the 22 kilometers of Yamuna in Delhi is the most polluted part in the whole stretch. Nor do I want to discuss that Yamuna is joined by several polluted drains. Means at Wazirabad it enters Delhi, and after that we take out our drinking water from that. We extract everything the river can give, and then we dispose our sewage into the river. Means through 22 drains, which was supposed to carry clean rainwater. We know every time after the festivals, the ghats, as well as the water body is completely full of muck. We see flowers floating there, we see dead bodies also there. But we as a citizen, what can we do? The city of Delhi is only 50% sewered, which means that 50% of the area is connected to the sewage treatment plants, which treat our sewage. Then what happens to the remaining 50%? Remaining 50% is dumped into the river, which means that whatever black color or the dark colors we see in Yamuna is actually our sewage that is going there. Anybody coming from the eastern part of Delhi will face that, will see that every day, because most of the unsewered part lies in that part of the city. Now, what can we do? We know that government is launching Yamuna action plans. There are some steps from the center, and you know that the present government has given the priority to the river cleaning, although nothing happened on the ground that everyone can see. But there are plans from the state, there are plans from the center. But what, as an individual, what can we do? I see many young people sitting there. What can we do? Let's understand that. What can be our role and responsibility? Yes, we stop throwing garbage. That's one part of it. Individually, you don't throw your idols, you don't throw your flowers, you don't throw your plastics and bags. What else? What else? Very simple steps are there. Now, you know, you have seen, all of us either go to an institution or workplace, school, anywhere, so there is a building. So building is always connected to a drain, which you see in front of your building or at the side of the building. And that drain actually is connected to your roof. Actually, it carries the rainwater and passes into the drain. So what happens, ideally, a city should have a separate drain network for rain and a separate network for sewage. But unfortunately, we don't have that. It crisscrosses, it mixes, and ultimately it goes into Yamuna. So what can we do? What can we do to reduce the load that is going into our drain? There our role comes in. So you have your sewage, wherever the sewage, if you are in an unsewered area, you are living in a community, you are living in a high-rise or in a colony, you can actually treat your wastewater there. Whatever is coming out of your toilets or your kitchen, you can treat it there biologically, which means you just use your plants there and treat it so that nothing unpolluted goes into your drain and increases the load of the drain. That, as an individual, we can do. So you treat your wastewater there and there, and you decrease the load on your drains. That means, what does that mean? That means that you are reducing the load on the river, reducing the pollutant load on the river. Another thing, another very simple thing you can do as an individual, you can harvest rainwater. Whatever is coming and again going into the drain, you catch every drop of it and pass it on to your groundwater. You know, Delhi also suffers from groundwater decline, which means if you go to the southern part of the Delhi, the Central Groundwater Board, which is the main monitoring agency of the country, says that the southern part, the southern and the southeastern part of Delhi is the most declined groundwater region. It has already touched the rocks. Means in another 10-20 years, you do not know what you are going to give to your next generation. So why do we waste that? Why do we want to increase the load on our drains, which will ultimately be mixed with the sewage and will be increasing the load of the river, a pollutant load of the river. So you harvest it there and recharge your groundwater. So there you are getting double benefits. You are not polluting the river, and you are also getting the benefit of increased groundwater level. So it's a positive side of looking like what we can do for Delhi. These are the simple steps. If you are in an institution, if you are in a workplace, or you motivate your communities, or your wherever colony or high rise you are in, so you can actually change it into a green side and also help in reducing the pollutant load in river. Yeah, government is fully responsible for cleaning the river, but we as an individual, as a Delhiite, as a person living in Delhi, should also contribute in cleaning of the river. So this is what I have to say, and remaining we can interact later on. Thank you.
This is one chance or get more chances? One more chance. I did go to the toilet this morning before coming here. At that time, I was not thinking about what happens to my production. So we had to really listen to it in a systematic way, otherwise we don't remember. अब ये है कि मीर के नाम आए हैं यहाँ पर, तो दिल्ली के खासियत, दिल्ली के ब्यूटी के बारे में बात करना है. अब ये जो इश्यूज, मुद्दे जो हैं, वो उसी को बरकरार रखने के पीछे इन सब चीज़ों की ही कहते हैं कि योगदान रहता है. ना हिंदी आती है, ना उर्दू आता है, जो भी है. पर अच्छा, दूध के बारे में भी मलिंद जी आप क्या कहेंगे? मिल्क इज़ अ गुड थिंग, आई सपोज सो. एक वो वृंदावन मथुरा में मैं बहुत दिन से काम किया था घाटों को नक्शा बनाने के लिए. तो वो लोग भागते थे कि मास्टर प्लान आ गया फिर से, कि हम स्टूडेंट के तहत काम करते थे. तो वो पंडा लोग होते हैं, वो एक चीज़ करते हैं, सारे पंडे जो उनके जो क्या कहते हैं घेरा होता है. सो एज a ritual, periodically, they put buckets of milk into the river. It's a traditional ritual. दूध डालते हैं नदी में. तो पोल्यूशन वगैरह की एहसास उनमें है. अब ये एक बात है. अब आप लोग ठहरे क्या कहते हैं बेपरवाह इनकिलाबी मैं सरकारी मुलाजिम. हमारा क्या होता है, हर 31 को बैंक में तनख्वाह आ जाती है. तो एक ही मौका मिलता है जहां हम बकवास कर सकते हैं, और विक्रम ने ये मौका दे दिया है. पता नहीं बिना जानते हुए भी मैं पेडेस्ट्रियन आदमी हूँ, अर्बन डिज़ाइन पढ़ाता था. बाकी लोग तो सीरियस काम करते हैं. पर एक सवाल मैं रवि जी को पूछूंगा क्लैरिफाई करने के लिए, कि जहाँ तक मैंने देखा है 7 cities of Delhi, the establishment which happened since Kila Rai Pithoda, let us keeping aside the archaeological remains, which are older than that, somehow their approach to water did not include Yamuna directly. And जो वेस्ट के लोग आए हैं यहाँ पर, उनके जो रुख है पानी की तरफ अलग है हमारे से. वो पानी की इज्जत करते हैं बहुत. तो but somehow, not somehow, but all these settlements which happened till Shahjahanabad, they kind of they were not very close to the river, and they did not, I'm sure, look at the river as the way we think of it today. For them, the river was part of a larger reality, and they concentrated on getting water from the ground with baulis and wells. It's also known that due to water shortage, Tughlaqs, they moved the settlement here and there, possibly, that's one history. Even when I finally ended up in Shahjahanabad, what you see is a wall. On top of the wall, emperor would stand and enjoy the view of the river, and which flew just down the wall. And it's only the Hindu culture which goes into water, because there's an abundance of it, and the religion of the practices lead them towards water. They immerse their goddesses. I'm from Calcutta, so one of the dearest images are the image being immersed at the end of 4 days. And there were several methods of doing that. The 2 boats used to go into the river, and the image resting in the middle would go down when the 2 boats separated. And they went inside the river, and the image really drowned. So that's the thing is that I'll also talk unconnected, because this is a place where you can talk unstructured, I suppose. Everywhere else your presentation has to be really ordered and structured, as people think cities are. But I think Mir didn't think city was so structured, I guess, my hypothesis. He enjoyed city as an abrupt reality. And so what I'm talking about is all abrupt little bits. But they all relate to this in some way or the other. That's one question. And so how we look at water, since that is the point raised, I just leave it at that moment. Because I also, the other thing is, as Vikram told me to come here, I said, a lot of people, he said, Neni, as we all have been discussing that, in a multidisciplinary situation, what happens every individual wants to become multidisciplinary. So I have an agenda to go to a multidisciplinary situation like our friends are really doing. They're talking about their area. So it's interesting that I am not an environment or waterman. I belong to this tradition by तालीम के तहत जिसको कहते हैं मीमार, not काबिलियत के तहत. So it's architecture and city. And so that point of view, I really want to, if I get a chance, to uphold that position. Because there is landscape architecture, for example. If you say planning does consider terrain, they always look for the geostatic data before they start doing the settlement. And they, of course, they live in the cupboard somewhere sometimes. So it's there. However, so my agenda is how to keep enjoying the city as part of enjoying life and this enjoyment.
So I want to open up, but may I respond to what you want me to respond to what you said about water? Okay. Yeah, so just a short, brief response, then we open it up for questions. So you're right. So they were built but Abe was also on, except Tughlaqabad, which then shifted capital. But they were built on the point I was making, that there's a continuous topography of water, which is interrelated between the river and the high point, the ridge, and it forms an ecological space. That's the point I was making. And whether you look at the horse cars or you look at the canals, and there's a connection with the water flows. And that's a place where the water flows really took place because of topography. And the point about urban planning I was making is that I've been, many recent projects do not take into account natural topographies. So you're right about landscape architecture, but I was talking more in a specific contemporary how cities may be thought of. But anyway, that's just a point of discussion. It's an interesting discussion.
So 2 points. One is that the 7 cities, the 8th city, several cities of the world, old and new, water is extremely at the core and of it, water supply. So if you look at all the books and everything else, the history of Delhi, there is direct referencing of a river. And also we need to understand that Delhi is not just Yamuna. All these things that we consider them as drains today, the map of Delhi will also call something a Najafgarh drain. That's a Sahibi river, for example. There's to be a river that used to go from Lodi Garden as well. There's one in Defense Colony. Many of these areas. So there were actual tributaries to Yamuna that right now have been converted into drains. That's one. Second, that was one point. Second point is that, when we look at urban design, and that's a comment to this, if you look at, one is what I was talking about government, when government doesn't do and when government does wrong. And in that, when urban design is not considered and when urban designers actually violate or do a mistake. And I'll give you 2 examples of it. One is the maximum amount of traffic that is there in Delhi is on this road called Ring Road, right? Because that has the maximum amount of movement in that sense. At every point that the river meets Delhi, there is a ring road. Starting from, Azadpur and beyond, Karnal, that we're talking about, that's where the ring road actually in a way starts, to everywhere. So the entire connection that the city had at one point where people could walk. So I have had friends from Delhi University who actually could walk to the river because it was an open space, and now there's this fancy big ring road that stops people from really having that connect. It might just be a road for us. It might just be an infrastructure project for us. But imagine how in urban design is not cement and steel. It is also about looking at how do people behave with infrastructure. And infrastructure or resource, both natural and man-made in that sense. And somewhere we as a country have failed in doing so when we don't really consider that. The other biggest thing, as the irony is, and one last point is that, the campaign that Ravi and his colleagues were actually fighting when I was a kid, the entire Ridge campaign, and when the malls came, and at DLF Promenade in Vasant Kunj, When the land was given away to several people, because the court said that fine, you can just do it. Who actually has, and that is Aravali, that there are aquifers. It's a great violation of a kind that we're talking about, land grab of the forest land. And there are two people who actually have their universities there. One of the most prominent environmental organization and perhaps the only environment university of the country has a campus there, yes. And the most prominent planning and development university in the country. You can name that also, sir. That's SPA. Yeah? So TERI University in SPA is on a piece of Aravali that's been cut down to construct and sell for malls and then take away our forest from that area. And part of it was saved because of the campaign that Ravi and his colleagues did 2 decades ago. Also, these are all lost battles, but we need to connect the dots and find out that, for us it's very fancy to go and watch a movie there, but it actually is at the cost of, I don't know how many million liters of water that perhaps our grandchildren would be missing out on because we wanted a fancy mall or a fancy university in that sense.
So enough of us, and thank you, everybody. So please raise your hands. I'm sure if you have questions of any sorts. As I said, it's an unstructured conversation. Thank God for unstructured conversations. You would agree? Yes, delusion. So please. Back and forth. I guess there's a mic somewhere for the... There are mics there, okay. No question is too embarrassing.
Unquestionable. We can't think anyone unless you ask.
There's no question. It's just information like you gave that there were rivers all around. So I can imagine my city with the rivers all around. I would love it. Imagine a Lodi garden where we walk every day. There's not a single, just a little pond. But if there was a river, wow.
There was.
I don't imagine, where has it gone? The Lodi garden, the Deaf Call and all, we don't see any rivers here.
Yeah,
except for Yamuna.
The Deaf Call Nala was a catchment.
So nice.
And they're not just gone. If you look at last year, there was 1 day of rain and Gurgaon was flooded, right? So when you actually cover these and construct around these drains or say that these drains are a mess. So, but that's what is a drain? There was no concept of these were rain-fed rivers. A lot of these drains also brought water from the ridge to the river. Or like Sahibi is coming from Rajasthan and then it's on map, it's a river. It's a proper river channels that we're talking about.
So which brings the important question, not to be nostalgic about this, but of how do we make cities which are where as if nature matters. How do we live as if nature matters? And that's a question of the times, actually. It's not a romantic question.
तो मीर ने कहा ऐसी खुराफाती आदमी ये दिल्ली के लड़कियां बड़ी गजब की होती हैं तो दिल्ली के नदी भी ऐसे है. I take my turn, the technical turn. This is it, you see, it's like a love story. First between A and B. Then it becomes a triangle. So A and B are in relationship. Long, deep relationship. Ups and downs, मनमानी, प्यार, तो चलते रहता है. चलते रहेगा. कभी बिछड़ जाते हैं, कभी मिलते हैं फिर. और कल सदारंग में एक गाना भी हो रहा था कि पिया के मिलन के लिए क्या क्या करते हैं. आप सुने, आप नहीं सुने तो कल नहीं आ पाए थे शायद. तो क्या कह रहा था. हाँ, तो ये जो एक ए और बी में रिलेशनशिप है, एक ऐसी कहानी है. बहुत बड़ी शख्स और एक बी, वो भी बहुत तेज चीज है. पर बीच में एक तीसरा पैदा हो गया, समझ लीजिए ट्रायंगल बन गया. तो ट्रायंगल क्या है? जैसे हमारे और नेचर के साथ कनेक्शन है. ए नेचर, बी ह्यूमन बीइंग, गहरी ताल्लुकात. अब सोचिए तीसरा कौन है. ये जो रिश्ता है मैन और नेचर का, बहुत प्यारा रिश्ता है ना. वही तीसरा कौन आता है बीच में. अब टेक्निकल लोग शायद बोर हो रहे हैं, लेकिन बताइए कौन है तीसरा. सवाल है, कोई बता सकते हैं तीसरा कौन है. मैन और नेचर के बीच में क्या है? मैन और नेचर, यू आर टू ह्यूमन. सोशियोलॉजी देखता है शहर को, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी देखती है शहर को, जियोग्राफी देखते हैं, बहुत अच्छी तरह देखते हैं शहर को, पता है शहर कैसे बैठता है, कहाँ बैठता है. शहर के लिए, पानी के लिए लड़ते हैं, लेकिन बीच में क्या पता नहीं पाए ना, वो हमारा काम बताऊंगा मैं. ये जो आप बैठे हैं, कहाँ बैठे हैं? ये टेंट को देखें, आप नेचर में नहीं बैठे हैं. नेचर और आपके बीच में ये सोफा है, ये टेंट है, ये छतरी छात है. ये बीच वाला जो चीज़ है वो आर्किटेक्चर है, और हम आर्किटेक्चर के लोग हैं. हमें अपनी डिफेंस तो पहले करना है, सरकारी मुलाजिम भी है. तो सरकार ने बड़ी, क्या कहते हैं, बड़प्पन के साथ आर्किटेक्चर के यूनिवर्सिटी कॉलेज खोल दिया है बड़े दिनों के बाद. मैंने पढ़ा था सरकारी कॉलेज में, ये भी है, एक और भी पढ़ा था मैंने, उसकी जो भी है हो गया. तो ये जो बीच में है ये आर्किटेक्चर है. अभी सिटी ऑफ दिल्ली को देखें तो आर्किटेक्चर क्या करता है, तो बीच में आके अड़ंगा लगाता है. वो नजफगढ़ नाला को घुमा के, नाला तो हम बचपन में बंगाल के नाला इस गंदा नाला, यहाँ किसी का नाला तो पहाड़ से उतरती है, असली नाला वही है. तो खैर वो नजफगढ़ नाला को थोड़ा सा घुमा के शाहजहानाबाद के अंदर से चैनल बना के चलाते थे ना, वो रेड फोर्ट के तरफ ले गया, चांदनी चौक के बीच में से वो चलती थी. तो वहाँ पे आर्किटेक्चर क्या, एक दोनों में एक थर्ड पार्टी एक समझौता कर दिया कि ये जो वेस्ट के लोग हैं वो पानी की इज्जत ऐसे करते हैं, उसको सुंदरता के साथ देखते हैं, उसको सजा के, संजोर के, कास्केट बना के और वजू करते हैं, क्योंकि वहाँ पानी नहीं है ना, थोड़ा सा है, यहाँ से यहाँ तक धोते हैं. और उसके लिए यहाँ पर भी जामा मस्जिद के अंदर वजू टैंक बनाते हैं, इज्जत करते हैं पानी की. और हमारी इज्जत अलग है. तो ये आर्किटेक्चर बीच में घुसता है. तो मेरा ये मुद्दा है कि हाउ आर्किटेक्चर वर्क्स. आर्किटेक्चर इज हार्टलेस. इफ यू गो इनटू आर्किटेक्चर, उसमें कुछ नहीं है, दिल नहीं है. इट डजंट हैव ए मॉलिक्यूलर केमिस्ट्री इन द इनर्ट्स ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर. इफ यू एसेंशियलाइज, ये कुछ नहीं है, चार डंडे हैं. बट ये आर्किटेक्चर ह्यूमन और नेचर के रिलेशनशिप का सपोर्ट है, छुपा हुआ सपोर्ट है, पता नहीं चलता है, आपने टेंट को नजर ही नहीं दिया. लेकिन शादी के टाइम में ये टेंट उभर के आता है, उसमें 1000 रंग लगते हैं, फूल खिलते हैं, गुलशन, आर्किटेक्चर ताज बन जाता है. तो ये आर्किटेक्चर ये ऊपर नीचे करते रहता है. अब पानी है, नेचर है, वो तो है ही. तो मैं ये देखता हूँ कि किस तरीके से संजोया जाता है. जो पुरानी दिल्ली थी प्री शाहजहानाबाद, ग्राफली वो छोटे छोटे ट्रीटमेंट करते थे पानी के साथ. नहर के पास नाला को रोक के 12 पुल्ला 7 पुल्ला बना के, बहुत बड़ी हौदी बना के, उसके अंदर ऊपर सैर करते थे, उस पानी को शहर को पिलाते थे, बाबरी बनाते थे. तो ये एक सिलसिला था. पर ये और शाहजहानाबाद तक जब शहर बनाया उन्होंने, चाहे वो आगरा हो या शाहजहानाबाद. अच्छा, बाय द वे मैं किसी से मिला कल शाम को, हम बात कर रहे थे, वो भी किसी सेशन में बात करेंगे, वो आगरे के हैं, नौजवान पत्रकार, बड़े इनकलाबी. तो उनको पूछा, भाई आगरे के हो, बड़ी अच्छी बात है, आगरा तो बहुत अच्छी जगह है. यस सर, आगरा इज फैंटास्टिक. तो मैंने बोला, अरे पता है आगरे में ना you know what Agra has? I said, what? Agra has, I said, wait, 5-6 railway stations. He was disappointed. I said, नहीं, राजा की मंडी, कैंट सिटी, बहुत कम शहर है जहाँ पर रेलवे स्टेशन बनाया गया था. 5 पुराने आज की नहीं है. बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है. वहाँ से निकलोगे तो लोग मिलते हैं, कूली, खाना पीना जो भी है, शहर दिखने लगता है. और बार 6 बार कैंट से कुछ टूरिस्ट निकलते हैं, कहीं से और लोग. तो वो कहा नहीं, डिसअपॉइंटेड हो गया. तो आई गॉट मोर इंटेलेक्चुअल. आई सेड, नहीं, आगरा में ना, अभी एनवायरमेंट की बात है. आई सेड, देयर आर many foundries and industries जो आगरा शहर की इकोनॉमी को बना के रखा है. आगरा was the largest city when before the British came. So even दिल्ली बनने से पहले. तो he said he was still disappointed. तो I said, well, son, what about Agra? ताज की बात कर. नहीं, you don't know. Agra has 3 World Heritage Sites. 3. तो so he thinks the World Heritage Sites of Agra makes Agra. नवीन पत्रकार लिखते हैं. But I don't think so. Because the World Heritage Sites only kill Agra. They decided to remove Tajganj because it was creating pollution for Taj. So ऐसे ऐसे होते रहता है. नाउ कमिंग बैक, सो जो उन लोगों ने नहर को गाइड करके सजा के प्यार से कुछ करा, उसके बाद वाले जो है, एंड दे लिव द वाइल्ड नेचर समवेयर आउटसाइड, वहाँ के बारे में शायरी करते हैं, थोड़ा सा खींच के बगीचा शहर के अंदर लाते हैं. शहर कंप्लीट सिटी, जिसको मीर कहता है दिल्ली की गलियाँ जो है गालिब के जैसा नहीं, वो देखने की चीज़ है. गालिब तो एसेंशियलाइज कर लेता है, तो वो ऐसे करता था. तो अंग्रेज आए, अंग्रेज ने एक और तरीके से, अंग्रेज ने उसी के अंदर से अपने रास्ते को लगा के लपेटा. ways, paths. So they worked with nature in structuring in another way, that architecture. They also used nature in a different way. Somewhere they put English garden around. ये जो मज़ार हैं, tombs हैं, ये पड़े थे ऐसे उजड़े हुए मज़ार. तो वहाँ पर उन्होंने बगीचा बनाए, नहर बनाए, इंग्लिश गार्डन उधर बनाए, और राजपथ के वहाँ पर एक्सिस डाले, बरोक बनाए. तो ये सब आर्किटेक्चर के जरिए से हुआ है, कि सोच आर्किटेक्चर से आता है, ना कि नेचर ये दे रहा है और मैन आर्किटेक्चर के जरिए से कर तीसरी बार, तीसरी दिल्ली, लैटिन दिल्ली में की जो अपनी जो दिल्ली है, मास्टर प्लान दिल्ली, मास्टर प्लान को लोग गाली देते तो चट जाते हैं. बट very soon after I was born, in 1960s, the first master plan happened. Now this is technical. Now our people know more about it than I. But I think the first master plan, which is the only master plan, possibly Vishal can support that, which goes on after reformation. They looked at city and landscape and land in a different way than neither Angliji nor Shahjahani. So they talked about garden city, and they talked about Patrick Geddes, and they talked their introduction, their preambles of the plan says those things, and they laid out the city plan. And I swear, the best thing that they did was they put a green system in the city to be grown, and they connected all the monuments with the green system. Now it's not Rome. Rome, where Aldo Rossi grows, monuments where accretions happen from Colosseum. They put the monuments in the green, and that was the green linkage, and that is why monuments are saved still now. Now there is, of course, a different kind of danger. So that was another architectural way of looking at garden, another intermediary between man and nature. So they are various. So, sorry, I'm out of time. Too much.
So, any more questions on this side?
I had a question.
Yes. We'll take one
regarding
more.
that we have a lot of polluting drains, as you were saying, coming to the river Yamuna. And in Ganges, we've had a number of water treatment plants. So why can't the same be done with the drains? And in that process, protect the river Yamuna? Because another thing, I'm sure that the speed with which the water is coming down must be decreased, because that's how the pollutants are there in the water. So can something be done about it?
Yeah, let's collect two questions at the beginning and then we...
Thank you.
Any other question? Or? No? Okay. You have a question? आपका सवाल है? आप जवाब दीजिए फिर
Yeah, that's a good one, good question actually. Yeah, what we are thinking, like, cleaning wastewater is very energy intensive and cost intensive. So within the drains, the best way to clean it is before it implement of using this method. And some pilot projects have also come here in the Kushak Nala, if I name one, where they have used such treatments, so that the water can be clean and nothing untreated goes into the river. So that's a very good point you have raised, because cleaning it in a sewage treatment plant is very costly. And that too, our sewage treatment, we have 23 sewage treatment plants in the city, and it's not running to full capacity. So you can understand what's the state of water that is going into the river.
Okay. Just before, I think he raised a very important point of the role of the built structures. And so it's a long discussion, but and we should have it. But I don't think the built structures are outside human desire, and they bring a lot of their own intentionality and power structures within how they are built. So I would say that nature has not been part of the built structure. So anyway, so I'm going to have a discussion. I'm just going to have the last word. So because there is no time. Not that I don't intend to have a discussion. Thank you very much, and thank you for being part of this panel. Thank you. To be posted on Facebook right away.